Welcome to the MVP podcast, where we talk about anything NBA. I'm Sam Holcroft, alongside Geigh Zollicoffer and Payton Thompson. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP, follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. So today we're going to talk about a couple teams that are having some good starts to the season, and maybe a few other teams, depending on how the topics go. So some teams that are having some good seasons. Let's talk about one of our teams. We have the Clippers that has Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden. They're not the best team out of our three teams. There's another team with AD and LeBron. That's not the best team. PT, let's go ahead and start with the Houston Rockets being the best team out of the three teams here. So, I mean, it's a pretty good story so far. How do you feel so far?
Feel great, man. Honestly, all the expectations that I had for the season are kind of just, I don't know, they're just up in the air because, originally I thought this team was going to have kind of a rocky start looking at our schedule, obviously before the injuries that the other teams have had, but, there's just a lot of good things that I see when I watch this team that I just wasn't expecting to see, how hard they fight down the stretch, how much the veterans have really made an impact on the game, and even when they're not in the game, coaching on the sideline and just kind of imprinting their personality on the team. So it's been super great to watch. I think a few guys that you have to respect on this team now are Fred VanVleet. He has I believe a 6-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's really showing Rockets fans and really, I mean, everyone in the league how much of a difference he makes between him and Kevin Porter Jr. Him and Kevin Porter Jr. are pretty much polar opposites as far as the point guard position goes. He's not really ever looking to score, but he can score. He's been really clutch when he needed to, but he's not really a score first kind of guy. He's been really dishing it out, getting guys in position, getting guys open. So it's been really good to see that. And Alperen Şengün as well, kind of having a breakout season, you could say. We're gonna see where you have to see if it can hold, but as of right now, he's averaging, I believe, 18, 7, and 6 on good efficiency. Only 2 turnovers a game for a guy that passes that much is really good to see. And then the third guy, you could kind of put a mix of guys in there, whether it be Jalen Green possibly, Dylan Brooks, when he has his moments, or Jeff Green when he closes out the Nuggets. But I think the biggest guy that I want to talk about is Dylan Brooks, because I think him coming to this team in the off season, everyone kind of having pretty low expectations for how he was going to play. I think a lot of people thought, oh, it's just the same old Dylan Brooks. He's going to take a bunch of shots. He's going to play good defense. We all knew he was going to bring good defense to the team, but I think a lot of people thought he was pretty much a black hole on offense, and he's kind of shown that, when he gets open and he's in a good system and he's really feeling it, he can hit the open shots, and he can kind of be, I guess the dominant force on defense, but also be a really bright spot on offense as well. So, with all that, it kind of starts at the top with Ime Udoka, and he's done a phenomenal job with this team so far, and I'm really excited to see what the season goes to.
Gage, what do you have to say about the Rockets?
I think I'm happy that they actually have some vets around them for once who actually care about the team. The Houston Rockets always made me upset just because, it felt like Jalen Green and KPJ could kind of just do whatever they want. And I hope that this Rockets team's becomes like a win by committee team. I hope no one grows that ego that just kind of throws the whole team overboard. I always knew Ime is a good coach besides, all the scandals, but overall he's a pretty good coach. How far will the Rockets go? You got to let the dust settle. I think the Rockets might be a 500 team this year, which might be good enough to make the playoffs, honestly. They're a little bit of a surprise. It is a little bit too early to tell what ends up happening. Do people end up figuring out how the Rockets, it's kind of like how the Denver Nuggets were kind of not really looked like as a game day target for many teams, and I feel like a lot of teams were surprised when they realized how good the Nuggets were when they played last year. So I think once you start circling the Rockets in your calendar, then you'll be like, okay, now I got to watch a lot of film. I got to make sure I'm ready. I can't, I got to be asleep by like 9. So I'm not going to go ahead and just, jump overboard into the Rocket train right now because, right behind them is OKC, who's arguably even more deserving of this momentum. I feel like it's real tough to tell. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to trash them. I'm not going to do anything, but I'm not going to say that they're a 4 seed.
Yeah.
Before you go, Sam, I gotta say I want to give my prediction for our record and where we end up in the season. I should have added that on top of my point. Yeah, Gage brings up a good point of there's going to be ups and downs throughout the season, but I think this is going to be a 500 team. Exactly 500 actually. I have them going 41-41, and making the 9th seed in the West.
All right. So with the Rockets, what I see when I see them play is I don't see them that they do something really well compared to the other teams in the NBA. Like they're not really, a top team when it comes to like scoring or defense. But something that they have done better this year, especially where they actually are one of the top teams in the league, is not turning the ball over. They are number 3 in, I guess 28th, whichever, in turnovers. So they only average 12.7 turnovers per game as a team, where the league average is around those 14-ish, with like the Jazz averaging, I think, 18.5 turnovers per game. And they are also 3-7. So that's really the one thing that I see this team doing real well. But something that I think also is really helping them right now is Sengun's play. And I think that you can contribute the fact that they had such a hardship year last year, and he kind of had to take that next step, whether he was ready or not last year. He had to kind of just roll with it. And I feel like that him having to have that role last year has helped him this year because right now he's leading the team in points. And that's with Fred, who could throw up a lot of shots. Jalen Green can throw up a lot of shots. Brooks can throw up a lot of shots. But yet he's the leading scorer. So I think that the development that Sengun went through last year has been tremendous in their pretty good start this year.
Yeah, but Sengun has been the best player on the team for a while. Well, I don't know if he's still the best player on the team. You can give that either to Dylan or Van Vliet.
Yeah, I think it's him or Sengun.
Yeah.
Or I mean, Fred.
Yeah. But I think most people who have watched the Rockets always knew Sengun was always the bright spot in all the mess, and so now you can actually put him in a system. Before he was stripped away by some other team, the Rockets figured it out and actually have a system around Sengun, and so now we can see Sengun's going to improve. Sengun, his play style is very much like Jokic. I'm not calling him Jokic, but I always see Jokic every time I see him. Every time I see him play, it's so. I think Sengun will improve this year, and I think by the end of this year, it won't be a question that he's the best player. I think right now there's kind of like, is it Van Vliet? I think it's going to be. I think Sengun is handedly going to be the best player by the end of the season.
Yeah. I think the last thing I want to say about the Rockets that I think for me is, maybe the most exciting thing about it is we're not even really talking about a couple other young guys that could be, contributors in the future. Jabari Smith Jr. kind of also having a very okay season at the moment. Amen Thompson been in and out the lineup because of injuries. You had those 2 other guys, and if they're even, half what they were drafted to be, we're talking about an even better, younger team in the future. So yeah, I think whatever happens this year, the future is bright for this team. But we got to talk about the team that's kind of on the contrary. We're going to talk about both the LA teams, but I think the team we need to start with is the LA Clippers because they're a very different team opposed to the Rockets, whereas the Rockets are very young, don't really have that star. Clippers have 4, Hall of Famers, or guaranteed 3. You could probably say, but guys that have been All-Stars not too long ago. But they seem to make a little bit more mistakes. They're still trying to figure out the chemistry portion of it, and I'm just not exactly sure where this team goes from here. But I gotta think they have to improve it at some point.
Go ahead, Gage. Bad mouth the Clippers.
I'm not
Go
gonna
ahead.
bow out the Clippers.
I mean,
I
it's
told-
fine if you are.
I told you this trade was so risky. I told you that. I was like, you got James Harden, who he did distribute the ball somewhat well in Philly, but I don't know if they still need more games. Well, the thing is, I don't think anything was wrong with the Clippers last year. It's kind of like what the Clippers have pulled off their own rest trade, maybe. Like there was nothing really wrong with the Clippers last year. The reason why, they pulled a game off of the Suns, right? Was it the Suns who they pulled it off? And they didn't even have PG. I feel like if they had Kawhi, PG in that series, they might pull off a series win. Now, Clippers and Nuggets, that might be a different story. But I don't see why there was desperation here. And did it seem like it was a cheap trade? Is that what it was? They didn't really give up much, but they did give up those picks, which is what I'm nervous about. I feel like if they would have gave up just the players, then it's not a big deal. He's a free agent. Well, all these players are free agents. The only thing is you don't have a draft pick. So then what do? Can the Clippers actually reel in another big couple of free agents? When's the last time they did that? Chris Paul? Does Chris Paul get traded, or did he walk over there?
Traded, yeah.
Yeah,
He was traded. So what trade pieces do you have once all these are all free agents? Except Russ. You get to keep Russ. PG,
I don't think PG about that aspect.
Is PG and Kawhi, have they been extended yet?
I don't think so.
Not quite yet.
Yeah. Very So
I wouldn't say that the James Harden trade was a desperation move, because in the end, this team still could have been a playoff team, but it's just he requested to get traded to the Clippers. That's where he wanted to go, and so then the Clippers kind of knew that they had some sort of leverage. And honestly, I was okay with what we all gave up, but I do see your point though, Gage, because if this doesn't work out, Paul George, Kawhi, and Harden all leave within the next year or two, then we're dunzos. We don't have any first round picks until I think it's 2029, maybe.
Yeah, 2029, and they have I guess he has a player option, so he has a player option he can pick up. So I think both Kawhi and PG have player options, and James Harden is also free. So it's just kind of like.
Yeah. So if it doesn't work out, then that's on them. But I will say this, because there's some people kind of hounding me about the slow start with James Harden and the fact that the Clippers are 0-4 since acquiring James Harden, and having him play. But let me tell you this. No, 0-4.
0-4.
He didn't play against the Lakers. PJ Tucker did.
Oh yeah.
But Harden did not. 0-5 since acquiring James, but with James playing 0-4. So last year, you guys remember, they got Russell Westbrook. Gage, you also said that was a risky acquisition as well last year. Yet they went 0-5 to start that tenure with Russ, right? Everyone was like, oh, yep, see, this is exactly what we expected. And then they won 11 of their next 17 games. So if you do the math, 11 divided by 21 is about a 52% win percentage. The win percentage of the Clippers when they acquired Russell Westbrook was 54. So they were basically on par with the same win percentage before and after Russ. They just had a slow start to gain that chemistry. And then, of course, in the last 12 to 13 games, I think it was, PG got hurt. He didn't play. And then they win against the Suns in game 1. And then game 2, Kawhi goes down with his injury. And then Russ is literally the only guy with a bunch of kind of B-plus players around him in the playoffs. So it's just a chemistry thing, especially when you have, like PT said earlier, 4 future Hall of Famers on this team. They got to figure out, okay, who's the roles. They just have to figure things out. Now, how many games will that take? Who knows? Because some teams can figure it out a lot faster. But if I remember right, didn't the Miami team weren't they like sub 500 their first 10 games together with Bosh, D Wade, and LeBron?
I mean, you probably don't even need to reach that far back. You can look at the Mavericks last season. The Mavericks didn't even make the playoffs when they acquired Kyrie, and I don't think they were expecting to miss the playoffs. I think more times than not, when you acquire a new guy, it's going to take some time to get acclimated. But I'll say this. I don't think it's so much about Harden not being able to fit with Kawhi and Paul George. I'm just not really a big fan of him being on the same court as Westbrook a lot of the time. I think for this team, if they want to win, because they're going to have to turn it around fast in the West, I think they should have Westbrook come off as the sixth man, and then have him and Harden switch out, and then kind of sprinkle in Paul George and Kawhi with both the units, because that gives you a good blend of different star power and ball handling in both units. But I just feel like both those guys kind of need to have the ball in their hands, and I don't think Harden is really going to be okay with being a spot up shooter or a guy that's going to run a whole ton of off ball action. So I think it's more of a lineup fit than it is a Harden thing, to be honest with you. But I have faith they're going to turn it around. I still have the Clippers as the top 7-6 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that getting that chemistry together and figuring out, like, if Russ needs to come off the bench and then Geigh gets to predict the sixth man of the year correctly, then so be it. It's gonna have to, something's gonna have to change, because I mean, we know the starting five. We know we got Norman Powell off the bench, Terrence Mann, Mason Plumlee. Like, that's a solid team. Unfortunately, Covington's not there anymore. We also have, I think, PJ Tucker. So, I mean, we have a solid squad. We just got to figure out the right. It may not even be Russ coming off the bench. It's Russ playing with that second unit, or James Harden playing with that second unit when the time is called for, when the time is needed. So I trust Ty Lue will figure that out, but it's just probably going to take, I think after the 10th game of playing with Harden, well, I think we'll kind of figure out what this Clippers team really is and kind of see them start going in the right direction.
Well, it's like a tough kind of thing to crack, Like, what kind of role is everybody going to have? Like, is James Harden going to be a distributor, or do you want him to be a scorer? There's been clips of Ty Lue telling him to be more aggressive. James Harden needs to be more aggressive, but it's just like, and you throw Russ into the mix, it's kind of, yeah, it's real difficult, actually. Yeah, I don't really know. He slows down the pace. He's negative 28. James Harden is negative 28. That, I know everyone's seen that stat. Negative 28 plus minus already in the last 4 games. And they've lost a few. Well, I think he was actually negative 28 against the Memphis Grizzlies in a 2-point loss. I think that's what it was. That's pretty insane. I don't know if that's on James Harden or if that's in the lineup fit, but that's kind of ridiculous, honestly. That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would venture to say everyone probably had a negative plus minus when
Russ
they've
had
been
a plus
losing.
12. Russ had a plus 12.
Just Russ?
I think
Terrence Mann had plus 13. Norman Powell had plus 6. PJ Tucker had plus 4.
What about the other stars, though?
Zubac was down 5. Kawhi was down 18. PG was up 2. So
Okay.
all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. I don't think this is the best version of the Clippers, but I think they'll be okay.
Well, I hope this isn't the best version of the Clippers.
Yeah. Maybe they squeak by and sheesh. I don't know. Actually, this might be a good time to put some money on the Clippers, honestly. Like, I think they're probably good, like, good over team right now. It's probably time to bet.
Yeah. All right. So, Geigh, we already talked about both of our teams, so let's go ahead and talk about your team. How happy are you that the Lakers are 500 right now?
I think the Lakers are. I mean, it took 60 less games to do it, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
They did it in 10.
Yeah.
uh, I think so. The thing about the Lakers is that they're starting to round out a little bit better. They have Vanderbilt who's returning, and they have kind of a guy they've kind of been building as a project to basically play like Vanderbilt in Cam Reddish. So now you have basically two Vanderbilts with Cam Reddish, but Cam Reddish has shown already to be kind of a better shooter than Vanderbilt. Now Vanderbilt hasn't touched the court yet, so who knows what he's done on the offseason. But it can be scary when you have two reliable wings that can play defense for you on the Lakers. And then you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is doing like good. He's kind of trying to fix that consistency issue. If he can fix it, then I think I mean the Lakers will be one of the top 4 seeds in the West, easy. If he's not really consistent, he gets hurt. You know the old story. I think the Lakers are trying to manage LeBron's minutes, but really they've known that like still until Anthony Davis takes the reign, LeBron just has to finish the game. You all saw what happened with the Nuggets. I think it was like a 3-point game. LeBron sits out. That's the end of the story because they don't have a finisher, and unfortunately, like LeBron is going to have to be that finisher. I think they tried to be a little too strict that opening game. I'm still a little sour about how they played against the Nuggets just because they stripped LeBron and out of the middle of the blue. I feel like they could have turned it there. They had the momentum. They just turned it. And unfortunately, I think that game was the lowest amount of minutes LeBron played so far this season, maybe second lowest, which is kind of crazy. They just kind of ditched that plan after Darvin Ham's job was on the line for a bit. Yeah, and then Darvin Ham. Let's speak about Darvin Ham.
Please.
So I hope that he's starting to get away from. So Darvin Ham is interesting because the man puts a lot of faith in unproven players, and it might work out. It might not work out. Gabe Vincent so far has not worked out. I feel like if Gabe Vincent was still healthy, Gabe Vincent will still be averaging 30 minutes a game. But with who's the next guy up that you can't really trust? Cam Reddish. But that one worked out. It's working out so far. Last year, you couldn't really trust Austin Reeves either, but he just kind of went with Austin Reeves.
I still don't think you can really trust him.
I think you can trust him, but you can trust him to be a 15 and 5 player who can actually close out games. I can trust Austin Reeves to close out games. He can hit big threes. He can do that, and that's someone he can. He can knock out the threes to get you in the end of the games.
I don't know if that's what the numbers say.
It is what the numbers say. Go ahead and check.
They say he's shooting 32% this year.
But check the fourth quarter. He can in the fourth quarter. He can lock in.
So basically, what you're saying is that he's pretty much bad all game, but he'll hit the clutch ones.
I would say that he is not good when you have him starting because Austin Reeves is great, but he's not that great. He's kind of like in that situation where you have, who's a player just like him who, I want to compare him to Cam, what's his name, in the Nets on Brooklyn.
I would say Cam Johnson's a much better player.
Not Cam Johnson.
Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas. If teams focused on Cam Thomas, like actually had him part of the game plan, he's not doing that.
Yeah.
But the same thing with Austin Reeves. If you put your game plan on Austin Reeves, which is why the Lakers have stopped starting him because they started planning around Austin Reeves. I don't trust Austin Reeves there. I trust Austin Reeves with coming in, making the shots and being disciplined and maybe making something out of nothing occasionally, which is pretty good given his contract. I mean, his contract is basically the same as D'Angelo Russell. Just a little bit less.
What is he making? Let me look that up.
He's not making that much. I think it's about They got him on a really good contract.
Yeah, because he was RFA.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna bring up his fourth quarter stats so far this year. He's played in 9 games in the fourth quarter, but he's played in 10 games. His minutes per game in the fourth quarter is 7.6, so he's playing a little over half. He's averaging 2.8 points per fourth quarter, 1.2 assists and 0.4 rebounds, 0.7 turnovers. Only 2 shots on average, shooting 39%, which is a little bit above his season average. And he's shooting 33% from 3, but he's only shooting 1. So it's not the best. So
He's
if
not.
he's
I'm not
if
saying he's going to take over, but I'm saying
but
he's the guy who's
but
not
is he
going
a
to do
closer?
some. I think he's a closer role player. He's not going to make dumb mistakes.
It's hard when he's only taking 2 shots every fourth quarter, though.
It's okay when you're playing with LeBron and Anthony Davis. You're just going to have to be there and be in a system and not be like Lonnie Walker or or Russell Westbrook
Cam
or
Reddish.
D'Angelo Russell. Cam Reddish is kind of risky too. I can trust Austin Reeves
He's more
in the fourth
reliable
quarter.
he's more reliable than Cam Reddish, I would say.
Yeah, I need a player who I can trust in the fourth quarter who just won't throw the game away.
And you know who that is? This is what they need to do. They need to go out and trade for DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar DeRozan is the kind of guy that will be able to manufacture a tough bucket when they need it in the fourth quarter. I don't think the Bulls are going to be asking for all that much. I mean, they're going to try to get as much as they can, but for a guy his age, I don't think his contract is too wild, but it's enough where I think it'll scare away teams that don't really need him. And I don't think a rebuilding team or a bottom 9 team is going to want to trade for DeMar at this point. So I think you could get him for a reasonable price. I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I think that's the type of guy that you can say, I trust this guy in the fourth quarter to close games when either one of the 2 other stars isn't healthy or they need a tough bucket.
Yeah, I think. I'm not going to go here and say Austin Reeves is better than him and than DeRozan. I'm not going to say that, but I don't know how the contracts would work because how much is DeRozan making compared to Austin Reeves?
So Austin was making 14 per year, which is a good contract for him. Let me see how much DeMar is making. I mean, he would go into the trade. So this year DeMar's making 28, so that makes up about 50% of the salary.
Only
And I'm
28.
sure, yeah, 28 actually, which isn't really that bad.
That is not
But when
bad
you
at all.
consider he is, what would you say he is? About 34? Yeah,
36, 34.
34. So, he's probably good for another season or 2. But I mean, if you're talking about Austin Reeves and a couple salary fillers and a couple picks maybe, I mean, I would do it. I wouldn't. I don't think I would include Rui. You could probably include Christian Wood. I would personally, but I also don't like Christian Wood as a player.
You can't give up Jackson Hayes. He's a centerpiece, right, Gage?
He hasn't got any minutes.
I would
I told you he wasn't going to.
I mean, that's the thing. Darvingham has weird minutes restrictions on some certain players.
Right.
Maybe he's just not good.
I would have Jackson Hayes take all of Christian Wood's minutes, and then I would just put Wood in the package.
But Wood is such a good scorer.
He's not, though. He's not a good scorer.
He's a good scorer. He just doesn't play defense.
Is he a better
reliable
scorer than DeRozan?
He's not in the same position. But if Anthony Davis goes to the bench, you need someone who can basically be a poor man's Anthony Davis scoring wise, and that's what Christian Wood's role is.
So you want to know Christian Wood's per 36 right now?
For scoring this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
12?
It's 12.
Yeah.
You're actually on the money.
Yeah,
Which to me, that doesn't sound like a great scorer. I mean, it's an okay scorer. He's fine, but it's not a guy that you need to hold on to. And on top of that, he's not a good defender. He's not strong. He's not particularly fast. I think he shoots threes pretty well when he's on. I like that about him. But other than that, he's not a great playmaker. I don't think he necessarily makes guys around him better. I think at least with Jackson Hayes, you know that he's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive on-ball, point of attack defender, and he's going to be just as good of a lob threat. He might not have the threes, but he's a little bit younger. He has a little bit more, improvement to be had. Whereas Christian Wood, I think Christian Wood is what he is. He's 28.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could go on about the Lakers. There's a lot of storylines with each of the players. I guess the main story is that the Lakers are rounding out well, and we'll see where they end up going. But I think they're going to finish as a top 4 seed when they round out well.
Is that before or after Darvin Ham gets fired?
Darvin Ham likes to put his job on the line way too often for my liking. I feel like after Cam Reddish missed had a terrible game a couple games ago, any other coach would have sat him down. I mean, any other coach did. New York did, Atlanta did, but for some reason the Lakers were like, all right, let's just keep it going. This is good. Just keep it rolling. But
he'll figure it out.
So if he can stop doing that, especially with I don't hate Gabe Vincent is on a decent contract that I don't put fury on him like I did with Russell Westbrook. But if he keeps letting Gabe Vincent play 32 minutes a game unwarranted, out of the blue, like matching Austin Reeves out of the sudden, someone tell me what Gabe Vincent's minutes per game was, please.
28.
If he keeps doing that, I think everyone's gonna get frustrated real quick.
28 is scoring 6 points.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah. So
I can go on and on, but we gotta. Yeah, let's just.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring up a team that maybe we didn't see being so successful, and they're the 1 seed in the East. Better watch out, Philadelphia 76ers. They got rid of James Harden. They can breathe. Everyone can breathe in Philly. So they are 8-1 right now. Yeah, 8-1 right now. Best record in the NBA. You got 2 guys having great years. You can even say all NBA years. Joel averaging 32, 12, and 6. And then you got Tyrese Maxey averaging 29, 5, and 8. So this is,
Let me tell you what's in my mind. The 76ers, okay? The 76ers are like that guy who has the 76ers did to like Tyrese, basically. Tyrese was there all along. He's always been there. It's kind of like they've been chasing, it's like Tyrese is like that cliche like girl who's really shy, doesn't talk or anything, and then the guy's just going after James Harden, Ben Simmons. Those are the guys. But Tyrese was there the entire time, overlooking Tyrese the entire time. Really, when all the love of of his life was Tyrese, and he was there the entire time, every step of the way. That's the kind of scenario that's happening with the 76ers. Tyrese has been on this roster, probably capable of doing this since even last year, but you still were overlooking for James Harden, and then the year before that you're holding out with Ben Simmons, and I mean they kind of were okay. They were saying, okay, Tyrese, they told themselves, they said, okay, we don't need Ben Simmons, we have Tyrese, and then they go get James Harden, and then they said, okay, we don't need James Harden, we have Tyrese. I hope they stop this cycle because Tyrese is the person for them.
Or maybe they trade for DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, they trade for DeMar. And Tobias is on the 76ers as well, right? He's still there. Mm-hmm. He's actually playing his contract this year. Actually, for once, he's playing his contract. I used to say every time someone bring up in a conversation, who do you think is the worst? Yeah, Tobias over me. Who do you think has the worst NBA contract in the league? And then people would say, oh, last year was, Russ, of course. But how about second? Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris had the worst contract. Why? Because he was basically on a max. Isn't he on a max? Or very close near?
Let me check it.
Dang near.
It was just unwarranted. And I think he was the only player making that much who was never on an all NBA team.
Yeah, you're right. It's pretty much a max. I mean, 36 mil a year is pretty much a max.
What did he do to warrant that?
Actually, check that. It went up. He's at 39 this year.
He's 39. Who else is making 39 in the league?
Not DeMar DeRozan.
Not
Yeah,
DeMar DeRozan.
that list is probably like 15 guys, maybe, if that.
And
After this offseason, maybe like 21, 22-ish.
Yeah, with inflation. But also, Tobias Harris is a free agent next year, so he's never going to sniff that kind of money again.
I mean, if he keeps playing like this.
Someone might
No,
give it to
he's
him
not
again.
going to get 39 mil next year. I hope not, at 32.
He's a top 10, honestly. He's playing like a top 10 player in the league right now.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing on, because like I'm just looking at his stats, and he's shooting a little bit more efficient with 1.5 extra shots. He's also playing 4 extra minutes, and other than that, his stats are relatively the same.
Oh,
So
it's more than the box score. Something about Tobias is just different. Like, he's just more aggressive. He gets the shots. I think
he's just more bought into Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
That could be it. Yeah, it's because that you guys got to keep in mind that's his second stint with Doc Rivers. The entire time not the entire time. That second half of that Philly tenure that he's been with, like it didn't work in LA for the 2 years that he was there. Which here's the thing, that wasn't even 2 whole years. You got to keep in mind this man has been traded mid-season 4 times in his career. 2012 to 2013 went from Milwaukee to Orlando. 2015 to 16 went from Orlando to Detroit. 2017 to 2018 went from Detroit to LA. The very next year, 2018 to 2019, got traded to Philly. That is 4 different times.
Yeah, I didn't even think that they have a new coach as well, which is kind of crazy. Like, yeah, they have a new coach. Everything is brand new. And yeah, so, there's a lot of good things going for, like, the 76ers. It's not just, Joel Embiid doing his thing. It's also Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris both playing, like, arguably better than any number 2 and 3 like player in the league. You give me a point guard who's playing as well as Tyrese Maxey that isn't considered the number 2 on their team. Damian Lillard isn't playing as good as Tyrese Maxey right now. Tyrese Maxey is, I just, and the scary part is he could probably keep it up.
Yeah, he should probably be an all-star, and I think the Sixers are going to be in good hands this year.
No, not. Don't lowball him like that. This man can be all NBA.
He's got to keep it up.
All NBA, not even all star. We need to start talking about soon all NBA.
See, I gotta, just like other teams like my Rockets and the Timberwolves and whoever else, Bucks, Clippers, Lakers getting better. We gotta see how they do with a little bit more sample size.
Tyrese was capable of this last year. He was. He definitely was.
Probably, but we didn't see it.
This isn't a surprise. I mean,
the best.
Go ahead. He was capable of this last year. He was, but he just had to share the ball with James Harden. James Harden had to be a distributor. When you have someone who's demanding as much attention as Joel Embiid, and then you also have Tobias Harris, like, actually playing well, it is very hard for you not to score. It is like there's a clear path for you as good as Tyrese Maxey to score 50 points. Like, this, it's just, he's that good. He's that good. And you're the third option.
Yeah. Shout out to Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers, man. But the last team we're gonna talk about here is the Milwaukee Bucks, and the rough start they've been having this season. I'm just gonna kind of give my spiel about them, what I think they need to do to get better. Um, I'm losing a lot of faith in Adrian Griffin. I think, I think he was a good assistant with the Raptors, but I don't know how much of that was really him and how much of it was Nick Nurse or, the personnel they had, because they had a great draft for a few years there. And so, not being able to fully utilize Giannis in the spots he needs to be at and his tendencies and everything like that, I think is kind of a red flag. I'm not really sure what we're going to get from Chris Middleton this year. But him only averaging 20 minutes per game when he's been playing is a little bit scary. But I'm hoping that they're just kind of slowly trying to work him into the his minutes, his real role this season. And then on top of that, Damian Lillard's already taken games off because of the ankle thing. It's yet to be seen whether that's long term or not, but whatever it is, it's already an injury now that you have to deal with for the rest of the season. So, um, with that being said, I'm not really exactly sure where this team ends in the East. I think they're one of those teams that's gonna be good, but their ceiling could be as high as third or maybe second if they can turn it around somehow. I just think they took a big step back on defense with losing Drew Holiday. But they could also be as bad as 6 or 7. It could be one of those down years for a really good team that's coming off, a couple of good years in a row, and they need to figure out the coaching chemistry as well as working Dame and Giannis together. And Brook Lopez isn't getting any younger, and I have some questions about that bench unit. So a lot of things that they need to juggle. I honestly think the Bucks have a little bit more to figure out than a team like the Clippers or Lakers, because not only did they add a new piece, they added a new coach, and their guys are a little bit over the hill as well, with a bench unit that you also can't trust. So they just have a lot of moving parts, and I'm not sure where they go from here, but I'm confident they'll be a playoff team. I know that for sure. I just don't know where they're going to end up.
I feel like my biggest thing with the Bucks is, yes, Dame came, or he's here. He's a big scorer for the team, and whether they needed it or not, they thought that this is the direction that they needed to take. My biggest thing though is I wouldn't say it's necessarily the defense, because you got Giannis, you got Brook Lopez, Middleton can play some decent defense, but I don't think that Damian is being the ball distributor that they need. Drew was that guy. Last year, they were 12th in the league in assists per game. You know where they are this year? 29th as a team. So they are not getting the assists that they should be. Where let's look at the scoring. So their scoring last year, they were the 8th highest scoring team last year, and they were 12th in assists. This year, so far, in scoring, they are 9th with less assists. They are 29th in assists. So I feel like once Dame can kind of be more of a distributor too. Now that's never really been Dame's biggest strong suit. He's a scorer. He's a scoring point. But I mean, it's not too hard for him to dish out 7, 8, 9 assists a game, especially when you have Giannis and Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton. So I feel like the ball distribution, and maybe that's also on Giannis as well. He's not having as large of an assist. I think he normally averages 5. I think he's only averaging 4 this year. So I think just moving the ball around and getting everyone their touches and shots is a big factor for this Bucks team.
I think they're not in trouble, really. I think they'll figure it out pretty easily, especially if Giannis will try to brute force these things too. Giannis can definitely, you still have Giannis, and when in doubt, just give him the ball. He's still that dominant, even though he doesn't really he's not going to, he can just brute force the wins, or not really brute force the points. I think you can, so I think with Dame, Dame will figure it out as well. You would think that it works out nicely because you have so many floor spacers, and then you have so many people. I mean, floor spacers, and then you have Giannis, which means that no one can really sit back and protect the paint. So there just seems like there's too many things that can go right for it to keep going wrong. And they're 5-4, so it's not a big deal.
I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about, whether it's their offensive struggles of being able to move the ball around, or whether it's, the defense, because they are 30th in three-pointers allowed, 3-point percentage allowed of other teams. I think they allow 40% from the field. That's just not really. It's not a
I
it's
mean,
not a good formula to winning basketball, and a lot of these things that we talk about are coaching issues. A lot of the stuff Budenholzer made sure to make a point at last year, but also, like, I mean, we got to call a spade a spade. Damian Lillard's never been a good defender, and as he gets older and he starts getting more injuries, he's not going to become a better defender either. And not having that perimeter pressure on guys, it's going to make a difference because it collapses everything. And so, he's going to have to make the extra effort. I think Giannis is going to have to take another step up as far as making sure he's efficient, especially at the line. Because, like you said, if Damian Lillard's out, or you're kind of just giving Giannis the ball to score on the inside at force, he's going to have to be able to knock his free throws down, and not turn over the ball as well. So,
I mean,
like you said, I'm not too worried about it, but.
but we knew that the Bucks were a terrible 3-point perimeter team. I already said that before they even stepped on the court. I knew this team was going to be terrible at perimeter defense. I knew it. I was just
It's
like,
a problem.
okay, yeah, but they can still manage. I think it was expected that they were going to be bad. They kind of just started to lean further into it with the trading of Drew Holiday. They just leaned further in, and that might not be a bad thing. They have a recipe for that. It'd be nice if they had perimeter defense, but I think this team just has a lot of other things that should be going right that I expect to go right very soon. Like that spacing should be real nice.
Fair.
Yeah. So, is there any other teams that we were wanting to talk about? PT? Any teams?
I just want to say, shout out to the Pacers, man. I just want to shout out the Pacers. I had them being really good this season. I think they've been playing really well. I believe they're first in pace. They're super fast. Tyrese Halliburton's having a great season. He had 43 points the other night. He's a walking double-double. He had 24 and 17 assists the other night as well. Yeah, I think the Pacers are incredible this year.
Paul said something pretty about like Tyrese, and we didn't believe him at first, but he said, "You watch out for Tyrese. He has the Paul call." He was telling us that way before when he said, because I remember, and we might still have the recording where we were talking about who was going to be the rookie of the year, and Paul out of the blue said Tyrese Halliburton. I said, "What? Tyrese Halliburton?" I think it was over who was in that class? Was it Zion?
I think that was I think it was the LaMelo class, maybe.
Yeah, I think
it was LaMelo
and Anthony Edwards.
LaMelo, but he said, and Tyrese was drafted 7th, I think.
I think
12th.
8th or 9th. Yeah, 12th. Yeah.
12th. And all of a sudden, like, I think one of us said LaMelo, the other said Anthony Edwards, and then Paul all of a sudden says Tyrese Halliburton. And I said, "What?" He said, "Tyrese Halliburton is going to be the best player in this draft, when it's all said and done."
He said something like that. It was pretty funny.
I mean, to be able to see that though is pretty incredible, because like I remember Tyrese at Iowa State, and he's gotten so much better as like a shooter, as an on-ball creator. Like he's done so much improvement to his game in the last couple years that he just wasn't really doing in college. So to be able to like see that in advance is as long as he had full confidence, is pretty incredible, to be honest with you.
Please tell me we have that recording somewhere.
I think we might.
We might have to play it.
I think it's in the podcast top 20 or no, it was the rookie.
Hold on.
Yeah, I think it was some sort of rookie.
Let me just look for it. Just for a second, please. Hold on.
I mean, one team that I just want to briefly touch up on, but not really like go into, but also like a team that's doing pretty good right now is the Thunder. I was kind of expecting them to, have a decent start to the season, but I think that Chet's playing his role pretty well.
See, I agree with you that the Thunder have been playing well, but it doesn't really surprise me either, to be honest with you. You're on mute.
What? Yeah,
I
yeah.
found it. Okay, just listen in real quick. I'm gonna play it up to my mic. He takes it. Wait. And I see him become the 6th man, and eventually.
Is he on your fantasy team? Not anymore. You left him. He's on someone else's team. He's on someone else's team. He can't stream anymore. He's on someone else's team. But this man averages around the ballpark. And this, keep in mind, I think he was drafted 12th. He was drafted 12th, averaging 11.4 points, 50% field goals percentage, 47 3-point percentage. That might regress. We don't know how good this man is. We don't know how good he is, but so far he has proven to be very efficient on what he does. 3 rebounds, almost 5 assists. The guy we were talking about who was barely behind LaMelo in assists per game. And 1.2 steals and more blocks. So the guy's well-rounded so far.
And he's competing with De'Aaron Fox. Yeah. So it's like not like he just has uncompetition. You know, he's got the guard. It's pretty guard heavy over there too. We got De'Aaron, we got Buddy Hield, we got there's a few people that get a lot of those minutes over there in Sacramento. But I feel like he's one of those players that's going to be a constant. What I mean by a constant is like he's going to give you the same thing every time he plays. Like he kind of gives me that kind of energy. That he's like one of those players that just kind of he's going to come and not do too much, like a Melo kind of maybe, and not super athletic like Wiseman or nothing like that. He's just that player that just kind of will give you what you need from a point guard. The New York Knicks, I think they should have drafted him actually. That Obi Toppin thing was still a good choice. If it wasn't him, it was Obi. But I don't know. I think he would have been perfect for New York too.
I think so too. With all kind of the power forwards they got in Obi Top.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just kind of that, like he's a player to watch because he's not on people's radars, and he just plays pretty smooth. So
some people even say that he's making the next pay for.
So he didn't quite say he was going to be the best player, but he
I
did.
think he starts to get to it.
Okay.
I cut it off. But he starts to. We go in a whole segment on Tyrese, and he's starting to get to it, and he's saying no one's looking at. And keep in mind, this was like we started talking about Tyrese around like this was called the first quarter, so around this time. And
it was like 20 games in, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, got to talk about Tyrese. I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah. So, Geigh, is there any other teams that you want to talk about?
Yeah, let's talk about the Wizards.
Okay.
Let's talk about their draft picks. Bilal. Is he the guy?
Johnny Davis,
Is he the
Corey
guy?
Kispert, Denny
Kyle,
Adia.
Kyle Kuzma going to lead him to a ship?
Okay, I think that's a topic for a different day because I know you love talking about the Wizards. Like what? All right, whatever. But I guess that's all the teams that we wanted to bring up. Check us out next week when we do our second update of our custom NBA stock market game. Again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. I've been Sam Holcroft.
Geigh Zollicoffer.
I have Payton Thompson.
And thanks for listening.